you need to know your target audience basically. What kind of an event will raise the most funds? By now, I know my target audience. I do Welsh cabaret concerts in Llety Park. And more often than not, the night itself will cost about £1,000 to put on. But I always end up having about 2,000 plus as profit at the end of the evening, because I know my target audience. But I try to get sponsors, but in the climate we're in at the moment, unfortunately, the money is drying up unless you know of some good friends that are willing to help you. So that's about the first page on there. As I say, I use Llety Park because there's plenty of parking there. Most of you know Llety Park in Aberystwyth, the hotel. There's plenty of parking there. It's easy access. Llety Park, they make money. So do the local taxi firms. Some people stay in bed and breakfasts as well. So the whole area of Aberystwyth does benefit from such a night. But wherever you're holding an event, access is very important because of wheelchairs, disability, any kind of thing. So you have to really think of where you're holding your events. If you can get sponsors, that's good basically. Raffle prizes, you know, by now I don't have to think of raffle prizes. I end up on my events with about 25 prizes that people bring because they know the money is going to a charity. So I don't have to think. People just turn up on the night, oh, we bought you this, that or the other, and I end up with loads of different prizes. One thing, talking about raffles, I found out, if you have 4 or 5, you know, the cloakroom tickets, if you have 4 or 5 different coloured books, people will buy, I don't know why, they have it in their head, and if they buy 4 different colour sheets, they might be more lucky. I don't know, but they've got it in their head. So I always try to have 4 or 5 coloured books of cloakroom tickets so that they buy. Obviously you're making more money out of it. So, you know, basic things, but they're quite important. If you can get £4 rather than £1 of a person for a raffle, well, you know, you're up quids straight away. So you have to think ahead of things like that. If you have to think that you need a stage or anything like that in your events, think of people who might be hiring them out for nothing. Some village halls and some schools, they have a stage that you can have for free basically. So plan ahead so that you know that you're going to have to pay out at least as possible. So I think that's quite important. If you're holding an event, get in touch with your local, well, Radio Cymru, BBC Wales, Radio Ceredigion, all these. Try and give them some programme, like tickets, 2 tickets for a competition. This will, it's all in here, and you don't have to make notes for today, because these will get translated for you. But try and involve your local radio station. Give them 2 tickets if you can, so that more people hear about it. Try and get an interview on the radio. Radio Wales, you know, they do them. Radio Cymru do them. Use your local community papers. Send a little paragraph in saying you're holding an event, blah, blah, blah. Just give the basic details. It's a free advert. You know, it's at the end of the day, what you want is to be making money. If you're doing it for the stroke or Alzheimer's or any other charity, get them involved, because they have groups that meet up, give them tickets that you can sell. But when you're thinking of the price of your tickets, make sure that you're raising enough money, because if your event costs 500, well, you need to make sure that you've got that 500 before you think of making any profit, basically. So it is quite important that you really plan ahead, and that's why I prefer to do things by myself. So I know from the first initial contact that I have with whoever's entertaining on the night, how much they cost. Make sure you think, how much does the hall going to cost me, or wherever you're holding your event. These are very, very important things that you have to think of, so that you know how much money you are going to raise. So that's quite important.
Can I ask how much you charge for the event?
£10.
Okay, it's not expensive.
It's not expensive.
Does that not include food? It's just the
No,
entertainment?
that's
So
just
that
the
it gets more complicated if you go
Yeah,
down that
I don't go around that
route.
thing
I've got-
because, as I say, I always use Letty Park because they always give me the room for nothing,
yeah.
and it's ready prepared, and they are so helpful. Whoever the entertainers are, they get a room to change and everything like that.
Yeah.
It takes time for them as well because they sell the tickets on my behalf as well, so people contact them, they contact me as well.
Letty Park do, don't they?
Yeah, they do that. People collect their tickets
Yeah.
or they collect them on the night and things like that.
Yeah.
So I put their telephone, they've agreed with me that I can put their telephone number out when I'm doing these things. It's on the posters as well. And moving on to talking about posters, make your posters as colourful as possible so that when people see them in shop windows, they really look at them. Don't use white paper, you know, use coloured paper or card. I'm looking at some posters around here. Make them colourful with at least amount of words as possible.
Not too busy.
Not too busy,
Yeah.
so that everybody can look at them. All the posters that I'm seeing on there, they're quite busy, apart from the decking, fencing, the poster there.
Stands out.
Yeah, it stands out. People recognise my posters by now as well, because I tend to keep to the same kind of pattern, so that it doesn't get too busy, that people who are looking at them, you know, they can recognise them straight away. And I travel down this road quite often. I drop posters off in all the village shops. You know, it doesn't cost me anything because I do travel on this road, Aberyron, all the way up. You know, that again, if a shop puts a poster up for you, it doesn't cost you anything. It's, you know, you get the attention of the people straight away. And by doing that, they recognise your poster, they recognise your event, and it, you know, the phone starts ringing. And people are asking me now, I've had a few phone calls recently, and I go to Morrison shopping, and I see people and say, when's your next event? You know, the last one was so good back in November, so the next event will be May, June, something like that. I'm on Facebook. I don't know if any of you use Facebook. I put information on Facebook, and I can tell you, I'm friends with people from around Wales by now, and when people see my advert on Facebook, they reply to me on inbox on Facebook, can you keep me tickets? Can you, you know, this, that and the other. What raffle price do you want? That again doesn't cost anything. And when you've got about 300 friends on Facebook, you know, it's word of mouth again, doesn't cost anything. So it's quite important. Just turn the page.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, by all means.
I mean, how many entertainers do you have at each event, and what sort of money are you paying out for that?
I'm paying roughly between 700 to 1,000. These are quite, the people I use are Welsh entertainers,
yeah.
and they are quite well known throughout Wales, kind of thing. And lots of groups like you have to pay for other things. It can be expensive for a group quite often, unless you know your target people, if you know what I mean. But because I know that people are going to come and see these people, I'm sure of getting my money back.
So you know you're getting, what, 300 people coming?
Well, 200 people, plus the raffle, sponsorship and things like that.
Yeah.
Even if you only get, you know, £50 here and there, it's 10 tickets or 5 tickets that you've sold in that money, because at the moment there is not many Welsh things happening. But they sing in English, you know, but they're Welsh from tradition. Yeah. What I've done recently as well is had a duo or something and brought in a local choir. And, you know, that again, it goes down very well, because with the, say, the duo or the one entertainer, the singer, people will be able to dance to, but then when the choir sings, they can sit down. It's just an enjoyment evening. It starts about 8 o'clock and goes on until about midnight. But we don't have any stoppages. You know, we don't have any breaks, because if, say, the duo starts and then I have a compere, And going on to talking about compares, I tend to pick a well-known compare. Geraint Lloyd, I don't know if you've heard of Geraint Lloyd, he's on Radio Cymru. He's come to my events. Glan Davis, who's quite a well-known character in Aberystwyth, he's come to compare the event. These people come from nothing. But when people see their names on the poster, you know, it attracts people. So I don't have a break at all from when the concert starts to when it finishes. The only break we will have is when we do the raffle, basically. Because the compare will start off the evening, the choir or the duo or somebody will start and then somebody else will come on. So people know that they get their money's worth. Because when you go to a lot of events in a public house or in a hotel, there's breaks and people feel that they don't have their money's worth. But I
lose them, they may just decide to go.
Yeah. So I don't stop apart from giving when the raffles has been drawn, because sometimes as well, if the money is going to a certain charity, I get them involved to get a person to speak about the charity at the event so that they know where the money is going to. And one thing I've learned through the years, I've raised well over 100,000 by now of money, that I never give that charity money. Because if you give money to Bronglice or to lots of charities, it gets lost in the system. I know how much roughly I'm going to make on the event. So what I do is I ask them what you need, so that I buy equipment for them. Rather than giving the money. I've learned this along the years.
Would people that come to the event know the specific thing or not?
They will know. On the poster I say the money goes towards blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But then I invite somebody from the charity to say this money is going towards, and then they'll say for a chair or...
Yeah, that's a good thing, because it's a specific thing that you've given money to, you know.
Yeah.
And you can presumably as well be specific locally. If that's
it's all locally. I don't go out.
You can, as you say, you can get lost.
Yeah, it goes out in the system.
Yeah.
And I, you know, for instance, my brother was in Abermad nursing home, and when he died, some of the money went to Abermad, but I didn't give them that money. I bought equipment for the patients or the people receiving the care. I bought stuff for them specifically, not to the Abermad home, but for the clients that were in there. There are, if you go to Bronglice, I bought quite a lot of televisions and chairs and different equipment, memory loss stuff, you know, loads of stuff. So I don't give them the money. And it's always important on the night that people know how much money you've raised. And I say this to them as well. You know, we've raised tonight in excess of 2,000. After the event, I always thank the people that are involved. It's very important. Thank your sponsors, you know. You can't name 25 people who've given you raffles, but you do mention it in passing, you know. People have bought raffles tonight. Always take a picture of you handing over whatever to the charity. It's proof. I hate having pictures taken, but it's proof. If it goes into the camera news, it shows that you've given your donation, because it's the other people's money, not my money. So it's very, very important that you have a picture taken, put a letter in the camera news or the paperebro indicating that you've given whatever you bought for them. It's proof, basically, that you have given that money to the charity involved. And, you know, thanking is very, very important. Let's turn the page.
It's also more publicity again, really.
It's more publicity, yeah. Make sure you've got plenty, even I say that I do the whole organising myself, make sure that you've got plenty of people on the night to help you, to sell the raffle tickets. Somebody's got to fold 1,000 or so cloakroom tickets. You know, make sure you've got the bag and everything else to hold these things, that you go prepared. Sometimes I do, if I get a lot of people helping or donated money, I do a little A5 little sheet to put on tables. It shows who has given money or donated, sponsored, whatever. It goes a long way when people see their name, that they've been recognised. because you're quite nervous on the night and you might forget somebody's name, not purposely,
No.
but if you've got quite a few names listed, you know, just type up a little list, spread them out on tables, people will know, and it'll show other people who are there. They'll say, oh, I'll give you something next time. You know, thinking ahead of things as
Can
well.
I just quickly ask, this raffle is only done on the night?
Only on the night.
Yeah, for legal reasons.
Yeah. Only on the night. Make sure you've got plenty of small change for your raffle tickets and things like that. That's quite important as well, so that you don't run out. I'm quite lucky because middle of the night in Thetty Park, Vince will ask, have you got any change? So I get rid of my small change straight away. Vince takes it and he gives me paper money back basically. So, you know...
Leading on to that, sorry to
interrupt. Carry on, Caroline.
Right, money now, you have
Yeah.
the money. How do you bank it? What do you...
No, I keep it until I
You keep
buy whatever I'm going to
in
buy
cash?
in cash. I keep it in the house, stored away.
Right.
But I tend to move straight away. I know
You've got
roughly...
something in your head.
Yeah, I know before the night what...
You've got an idea.
If I'm buying something for the stroke ward, radal ward, I know that they need a special chair. I will know the price of that. So I move straight away. And, you know, it's there, basically, within a week or so.
Right.
But it's important for that. As I say, if you can get something on the radio afterwards, there are plenty of Welsh programmes who are dying out for little clips of things. Get on the phone to Geraint Lloyd on the Monday night and say, oh, we had a fantastic night. But if you use somebody like Geraint Lloyd, you've heard of Tom Mowes on Radio Cymru at the moment, if you use them to be compers in your events, leading up to the event, they will say just about every day, we're going to, you know, wherever, Ponterwydd, Capabanga, Capel Seion, on tomorrow night or Monday night. Everybody will know about this event because they give you free publicity all the time. So then, if you use them like that, you can follow up on their programme and say, oh, we had a fantastic night on Saturday night. You know, people came, because I'm fortunate now, because by word of mouth, in my last event in November, there were people from Anglesey, Ruthin, Pembrokeshire, Carmarthenshire that had come. Some stay the night, like I say, some travel back. But it's good, because if these people have been there themselves, like Geraint Lloyd or Tom or whoever, they can say on their programmes, oh, I met John Jones from somewhere, or he was in this concert, you know, and things. Again, it's the word of mouth and the publicity, and people get to know you. But the most important thing is that you say thank you to people for coming and in the paper or anything that you can publicly, because it's quite important that thank you, and it goes a long way. It doesn't cost me anything to thank you, but it goes a long way. So basically, thank you for listening for that part of it. Any more questions? This will be translated. Any more questions? All right.
I'd like to, you know, you've been doing this for a long time, I know that, and you're very successful at it. But roll back to when you did the first one. I mean, what was the learning curve? What was the sort of the angst or the doubts? And how successful was it? You know, you're now...
I can't remember when the first one was. I seem to be forever been raising money for something. Yeah. Going back, I used to live in Toiareg, a little village down the road from here. And my parents were very involved in the village. My father was the secretary of the chapel, the secretary of the local Eisteddfod. My mum used to be involved with things, Merched y Wawr and things. And it was forever fundraising. And I've just grown up with it. It was a way of life. I've learnt by making mistakes, yes. But you will never learn unless you do make mistakes either. And you own up to your mistakes quite often. And, you know, it's something that happens basically. But through the matter of time, it just... So
is your suggestion perhaps to start smaller rather than too ambitious?
Yeah. I still do small things. I used to be involved with Beacon of Hope in Aberystwyth. I'm now involved with a new hospice in Aberystwyth that's coming through. They've come to me because I was involved in fundraising. It's the fundraising aspect that I get involved with, and I'm going to be involved with this new hospice in Aberystwyth. But, you know, raising a small amount of money for some charity is as much as raising thousands for a bigger charity. Aberystwyth started or restarted an Eisteddfod 3 years ago. My role is looking for funds. Last year, for all the money that needed to be raised for prizes, I got 2,500 in from local people in Aberystwyth. Fortunately, this year we've got enough money for the Eisteddfod. We've only gone for a few grants, basically. We haven't asked for local people to help this year. If anybody wants to donate, obviously we'll take the money, but we're not going around asking for the money this year. It's something that's put Aberystwyth on the map by reconstructing the Eisteddfod, because I think the last one was back in the 1950s, basically. So the same with the Angor, the local community paper in Aberystwyth. I'm the chair of that. We were low on funds and people were talking, oh, we need to start a 100 club because it's quite a popular thing to raise money. Nobody would do anything. So last November, I thought, right, if nobody else has got to do it, I might as well do it. We've got 151 members now.
What's a 100 club? Sorry,
You pay £10 per year, and there's a draw every month, and you pay. You have to get a licence from the council to be able to do it. If you can get 100 people, you've got £1,000. You pay out half of that money, or you know, a percentage of that money in prizes every month, but you have the rest of it. And as I say, we've got quite a few members now for this year. There wasn't enough time to do direct debit and things for this year, but come October now, I'll be sending out to the members we've got already a direct debit form. So rather than having to send cheques or money, they'll be able to do it through their bank for the next year. But that is a way of making money again, you know.
I find that's quite an accepted thing.
Yeah.
100 club, if people know about it, don't
Yeah.
they? It's quite
Yeah. I was quite surprised.
Yeah.
Because we put a little paragraph in the community paper about it, and again, word of mouth, Facebook. I put it on Facebook, and I had 2 people join up who used to live in Aberystwyth. Well, that was another £20, and there was 2 members. So, you know, you just got to think of ways of raising money, basically.
And catching the imagination.
And catching the imagination as well. Yeah.
You know when you go on direct debit, for me, I immediately thought, oh, you've lost the personal touch.
Yes.
You know, like...
Yeah, but I will be sending it out myself.
Yes.
But they don't have to do it.
No, I know that.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, I wondered, will you get as many?
Well, if I can get the people on board from this year.
Yes.
Because
I was just thinking about our 100 club. And, you know, we pass
People
the
pop
note round and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's how we do it. And of course, it's very labour intensive.
Yeah.
And that sounds great.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, do you lose that personal bit?
You know,
from my point of view, I'd rather do that. I'd rather set up a direct debit and, you know, it's...
Oh yeah, it's easier.
But, you know,
I'm just wondering, that was all.
I will see how it works.
Yes.
If I don't have a response from Joe Blogs, I will, you know, contact them again and say, you can send me a cheque if you want. I see that you haven't joined up this year. You know, I will still put the personal touch because that is quite important.
Yeah.
I think the personal touch is more important than the community thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's something.
Depends on trying to raise money for a church.
Yeah. But going on to talk about church, I go to chapel still down in Targarig, my home village, and about 7 years ago, we needed to do a lot of work on the chapel. And I said, well, we need to get some grants, you know. And at that time, I didn't know much about grants and what was happening. But they said, the people in the chapel said to me, the other members, if you can get the grants, we'll go ahead and do the work that's needed. So we needed about 70,000, I think it was at the time. And Google came in handy, I can tell you, because I was Googling all this. But before you start thinking about grants, you have to make sure that okay. You have to really think how much money you need before you can think about grant making or making requests for grants then. Because at that time I didn't realise a lot of things which I'll talk about after. You have to have a plan, basically, an architect that will show you how much money you need to raise and what's the best way of doing this work and things like that, how long the work is going to take. So there are lots of things that you need to think about. Application forms, they can be quite fussy. And when I was going for these grants, not one application was the same. They're all different, and you think that you've got a plan, or you can cut and paste and things like that on your computer. Forget it. But I'm trying to make it short because I think the other speaker has turned up now. I was spreading things out earlier on, but
what you're saying with that is quite rigid. You've got to be quite rigid.
You've got to be quite rigid and focused.
Yeah.
Once you've got your architect, you have to have 3 quotes from the builder and things like that. Whatever you do, don't let the builder start on the work before you know you're going to have the grants, because they will not give you grants if the work is started, and that's quite important. Make sure that you've got a chapel report, or how much money you have every year, and never tell lies on your application forms, because I know a few people have been found out. I wasn't, because I didn't tell any lies, or I didn't think I did anyway. If you're going for grants, especially for the chapel, make sure, or a village hall even, make sure that the need is there for the work to be done. Get your community council to give you a letter to say, yeah, this chapel, this village hall, because basically they work out the same. This work needs to be done, otherwise some part of the chapel will fall down, or there might be accidents and things like that. So make sure that you get the support of the local community council, for instance, involved, because that letter will say, yeah, the community agree with it. Make sure you know how much money you need to raise as well. When you're going for your application, more than likely you'll have to do like an A4 sheet of why and things like that. Make sure the first sentence hits the bullet, so that people will want to read on. So the first sentence or the first paragraph is quite important it's key information, basically. So what you put in that first paragraph, if it's interesting and bites the bullet, they will read on. If it's boring, you lose them. They get hundreds of applications, and you have to be very, very, precise. If it says 100 words, if you do it on your computer, use the word count. No point doing 250 words when they ask you for 100 words. So follow their instructions. Make sure you enclose everything that they need. Your annual reports. Take pictures of, where if there's cracks or, whatever needs to be done. Take pictures as evidence of, because if you're going for a grant somewhere in England, they have no idea what Capel of Adbat or Capel, say, on Village Hall or whatever. So take pictures of them, and it's important. And obviously when you take the picture, on the back, put down what Capel of Adbat, structural whatever, or make it really clear, because they get hundreds of pictures, hundreds of application forms. So everything you put in with them, make sure you write in. Another thing that I had difficult, well, it wasn't difficult, because all our chapel reports are in Welsh. If you're sending them to grant funding in England, it's no good. So you have to translate, you have to be prepared basically to spend time on things to make sure your application is at the top of the pile, not at the bottom of the pile. So that's quite important. If you've done any fundraising for your chapel and or your village hall or whatever, if you've been successful in the past, note down that you have been successful, but this is a different line of work. Don't say you're going for the same grant to do the same thing again, otherwise they think, well, that builder was lousy, so you have to think ahead on that as well. some grant applications weren't lucky because you haven't shown enough evidence of why you need the money, so pictures, letters, things like that, that your annual reports don't show, or if you've got too much money, I mean some chapels, too much money, don't go for a grant, because you will straight away get turned down because you've got enough money in your coffers basically. Make sure you fill in the grant application, make sure you check on the date of when you make your application it hasn't passed because you're too late. Make sure you sign all the papers, you know, that can defer if you haven't signed all the documents as and when needed.
So this can involve quite a bit of cost just to apply.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When you're making your application, treat it as you're doing a job application. Note the important things and, you know, allow plenty of time to fill in the application, and if you've got the time, get a friend to look over your application as well, somebody else who, you know, who's involved. Don't just take it on yourself because you might have missed something, and or take a few days and re-look at your application. That's quite important because when you're looking at something with fresh eyes, you know, you'll see other things as well. But when I was doing my applications, I didn't know. I was trying to print these off CAVO last night, but it wouldn't print off CAVO, so I printed them off WCBA, going back to my old employer. Places of worship, there are lists on WCBA and CAVO as well of grant funding. These can be done for village halls as well. If you go on CAVO website, they've got fundraising ideas where grants come from in Ceredigion. I don't know how many of you have seen these, but I didn't know about these 7 years ago when I was going for the chapel grants. I did get 80,000 for the chapel, and we were able to do the work, which is quite good. But when you're going for your grants, look up CAVO and WCBA websites, because there's information, relevant, good information there. And I can see Anne is desperate to come on here. So I'm going to finish now.
Thank you, Megan.
Yeah, we'll have a talk.
You're talking about the grant. Do you apply for more than one grant at the same time?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I did for the chapel, I think I went for 5 or 6 different ones.
Right, and they don't mind that?
No, you have to read the guidelines basically,
Yeah.
and that's quite important, because in some they do say, you know, you're not allowed to go for some certain grants. But like I said, before you start doing your applications, read the guidelines, make sure you've got what it needs, you know, all the things that you have to enclose and things. If you read the guidelines, keep it precise to how many words, don't go overboard, keep it sharp, get somebody else to look over your application with fresh eyes. Some ideas might be different and things like that, but always make sure that you read the guidelines before you start filling in any application. Check when the deadline is to receive applications, because some charities, they only do it like twice a year, so that you're, you know, within the guidelines or the dates and things. Don't use any jargon. If you're sending things away to England, make sure that it is in English, because if you send it through in Welsh, like some organisation will just automatically do basically, you know, it won't get to the top of the pile. So, you know, read the guidelines is the main thing as far as I can, and then start filling in.
So you want to add to that, Mike?
Well, yeah, I think if you're just going to trust funds and maybe you're putting applications in by letter as opposed to form filling, there's no limit really. You can go as many as you like. The problem would be if you got accepted for the same project by more than one, but then you have to write to them and let them know that, and ask if you can use it for something else, and if not, you return it, which it doesn't matter, does it, because you've got the money from elsewhere. So some organisations go totally the other way. There are charities, which I suppose really isn't it isn't a good thing, but what they tend to do is just literally blitz every charitable trust, regardless even if they fit the criteria. And some of them are very successful in doing that. So it's hard to not, I mean, I think it's pretty bad practice, but they are successful in doing so. So what do you say to that?
Some charities as well ask you, if you are making applications
I was going to say,
to others,
you declare it.
and you declare it
Yeah.
on your application, so that, you know, they are aware. Because some charities will say, we have only got 5,000. Well, I was looking for 80, well 5,000 wasn't nothing kind of thing. But if you go to a lot of different charities and declare at the beginning that you've gone to this, that and the other, you know, you will make up, well, I was fortunate that I did.
You ended up from different pots.
Different pots.
And you know it's sometimes worth talking to if the trust you're going to is large enough, it's worth talking to the trust administrator.
Before you start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're very keen to help you. Some won't, but some are very keen to help. And it does help if you've then formulated your application in the way they want to receive it.
Yeah.
And they'll also tell you if your project fits within their idea of what their criteria is, because the two sides often are very different. You read the criteria and think, that's me.
Yeah.
They read yours and say, nothing to do with that. So it is very difficult. It's the understanding of the criteria which is really difficult. And I think nobody sums that better than the sort of lottery applications. You know, you fill in 1 and 2, you get to question 3 and you think, oh, I've answered that in question 1 and 2. So you know, it is quite complex.
Another thing I found as well was, if it's going to a grant body, ring up and say, who should I send this to?
Yeah.
Get a name of the person,
The
not just
intention
to
of-
the chair or, you know, the secretary. And make sure you got the right name as well. And if it's got, you know, to John Jones on it, it goes to John Jones hopefully then,
Yeah.
not to just anybody kind of thing. I think that's quite important as well, that you know, direct it to somebody within that charity.
I think I just want to emphasise from CAVO's point of view, and I think as Megan and Mike said, that it's always important to get somebody else to read it, because you get very blinkered at what you're doing, and others come in with new ideas, and CAVO more than happy if you want to send it through to us for us to have a look over it, and we can actually put our comments and that. I think my line manager agrees with me on that one.
No, I think that's really important, because you're
do,
passionate
and
about this, and
you
you
are.
think it's the best thing.
Exactly, and we just pick up on
Yeah.
things, well, have
You
you
want
thought a
that
bit further
independence.
outside the box?
Yeah.
So it is
Yeah.
important to do that. On that. I know Kelly's got an email from somebody that's,
Yeah, no, we asked
and
for.
perhaps all of you can add to this one.
Yeah, we asked for any questions or comments that anybody had before today's event. So I've just got one here, saying that they organised an event 2 years ago and the target was 51,000. But unfortunately they were plagued by bad weather and they managed to bank only 16,000. However, the profile of the project continued and to date the figure has exceeded 210,000. When trying to raise funds, you have to understand that this is a very competitive marketplace. An idea or initiative needs to stand out. Rattling tins on street corners will raise money, but it's going to be a long haul. Identify your specific needs, identify a target for your funds. People love to hear a good story, so go for it. For a new project that they're organising, they went out and spoke passionately about what they were doing. The first talk raised £60 and the second presentation they were pledged support of over £9,000. And they also mentioned that social media is essential to raise your profile and when used well presents massive opportunities. Does anybody have any thoughts or any comments on that? Particularly around maybe social media, or anybody use social media? I think it's a good idea.
I think it's really the future, isn't it? To be honest with you.
It doesn't cost anything.
No.
You're just limited, aren't you, for people who are on there? You know, because I still end up sending a load of emails. First it's a follow-up to a lot of stuff, this is some people not, but it's quick.
This is the area I struggle with. I was saying to Megan earlier that and I think I miss out a bit by it.
It's unfortunate we've got to the time where people are dropping out of Facebook, not going on to Facebook. So
Really?
yeah, a lot of
Is that because of all the sort of
yeah,
nonsense in between? Yeah, it's just a load of, yeah.
As
Yeah.
I
So you need to
feel-
look for other sites that are open for that's
More meaningful.
yes.
Yeah.
Has anybody else had similar experience on that?
The other thing is, it's like again keeping it local. Because our standards have got a very national, they've got, I think it's a Western North Wales, which is really North Wales. And for me, who I was with CAVO, we were David. And there was nothing, so I was set a few pages up for different things. And it's just, to be honest, it's more for volunteers in terms of team spirit and keeping them engaged rather than re-advertising. But it's worked really well last year.
Something that me and Charlie were going to be doing, we're working a young person's project, and an activity that we went to do recently was to get a mural with some graffiti paints, and would B&Q, if you approached them and told them all about that, would they be possibly open to donating things like paints and
Lots
things
of
like
shops
that?
do.
Yes, but go in and see them in person.
Yeah.
A letter, you'll just get wind. But yeah, I've had stuff out and we
And
can
just
make
to
the effort.
reiterate that, basically go in and letter to follow up from
You know, you've taken the time and
Yeah.
trouble.
But
And
make
the other
sure
thing as well-
that you've got the information
Yeah.
at hand,
Yeah.
what you're going to do. I don't know if you
So
know,
plan.
people who live in Aberystwyth area, that Morrison's have
Yeah.
a community, they will donate raffles, prizes and things like that. I know you said about paint,
Yeah.
but Halfords, they're very good in donating, as long as you go in yourself, don't send letters,
No.
because I know that you're
And
in the
also as
Aberystwyth.
well, follow it up. We often put a thank you in the Cambrian News
Yeah.
publicly to say how
Yeah.
good Morrison's are, because
Yeah.
they are brilliant.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that they deserve the praise
Yeah.
for that. Yeah.
And little, you've got to send to head office and little, I went in and I had an email address and I had 6 bottles of wine, for a raffle prize. The whole box kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you've got to do things in person and you've got to put
Yeah.
you
The
got
legwork.
legwork in and you've got to think before you go.
The other
What
thing
you
I
want to
do is I've got sheets and sheets on the PC of where I've been since I covered David. So, I've got
Yeah.
3 or 4 Morrisons. So who are they? What's their phone number? What's their job title? When did I speak to them and ask what did I say? What did I agree? But to make sure I don't go next week again and bug them, but I give it 6 months. So yeah, you're all right, and off we go again. Whereas if you just keep on, people just, get bored.
Yeah, you've got to go
Yeah.
I've
around.
got to manage.
Don't leave it too long, wasn't it? They
No.
remember you. Oh,
Well,
I remember
I
you.
go out with
Yeah.
information stand, which is
Yeah.
really what I do rather
Yeah.
than fundraising as a side project. So, it's every few months a message, we're up to, this is what we do as a society. And then,
And promise that you'll give them some publicity as well.
One interesting little success that we had was we applied to the co-op right in the middle of all their financial problems. But the co-op have a local office in Aberystwyth which deals with that. They have another one, I think, in Llanelli. And they were very happy to provide us with a small sum of money.
Yeah.
In fact, they even sent us a little plaque up on the wall there that says the co-op have given us money.
that's because you're local. Say for chat like epilepsy and myself, I struggle with those. Even though the money will be, go local.
Because you mentioned that when we were reconstructing our Eisteddfod in Aberystwyth 3 years ago, we went to the co-op and they gave us a substantial amount of money to start off. Again, there was form filling involved and things like that, but it wasn't a hard form to fill in. But we got quite a bit of money just to start off the Eisteddfod.
I think where we struggle a little is that we're usually fairly successful in getting money for project funding. But if it comes to funding running costs, then you've got real difficulties in doing that. There are very few organisations that will advance money for that. Those that do have really very tight controls over what they do.
That's because of accountability, though, isn't it? Really. Whereas if something is specific, and you want a paper trail of that, you have.
It's got a defined start, a defined finish, and a defined amount of money, and that's fairly easy to deal with. If it's running costs, then it's ongoing and
lots of chances
infinite.
we don't fund that kind of.
It's too vague, really.
It's too vague, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I know, you know, every charity is important, but they don't see it. Running costs aren't a part of what they will fund quite often.
Whereas
But more and more trust funds are open to the fact that if you submit a project, that you should have an administration cost on there.
Yeah.
Because they know that if you're going to do a project, it's going to cost you time and money,
Yeah.
as well as the project.
Yes.
Is there a standard
So-
percentage on
Not that I know of, but
Not the big
you
lottery,
could-
you know, you put in capital.
you should put a costing in. I mean, they'll tell you it's too high.
Yeah.
this is sort of rough,
You know.
10% of the project?
I'd go at least 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least. I mean, depending on whether it's labour intensive or not.
But even if you're going for lottery money, they've got people who will be able to help you work out all this. You know, if you're going for some project, they will help you on defining what's costing or running the project and everything else. So if there is people within these charities, like the lottery, who are willing, use up what they're offering.
Yeah.
You know, they will help you form them. CAVO will do the same. You know, it's important then that you get in touch with them and use what they have on offer.
Just going back to the 2 young people who are going to
Yeah.
approach B&Q. B&Q traditionally have followed an older people's support type system, i.e. they inquire of people over 55, they talk to people like me, but there is huge scope for young people to grow. You just need to build a relationship up. So not only do you need to show them exactly what you want to do with their paint, but then also say, I would like you to come down when we've done it and have a photograph by, etc.
Yeah.
If you talk management-wise, you will find out who the store manager is just as
The other thing is I always start, I'm a volunteer fundraising ambassador, I'm a volunteer.
Right.
Yeah.
So straight away I get, you know, a sympathy vote because I'm out doing my own time.
Yeah.
And that opens an awful lot of doors.
And
I'm
young
literally
people are
volunteer,
their
I'm a
future
volunteer,
market.
you know.
Yeah.
And as I say, the publicity of having photographs with them, showing that they've given, it's good for them as well.
Mm.
You know.
If you go online, Dulux also offer free paint
Yeah, I was just
every
going
now
to
and
say
then.
that.
Yeah,
End of lines and things.
but they offer free paint.
Thank you.
Clements also in Aberystwyth, you know, they might be able to help.
Yeah, they do love photographs and publicity.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, this little grant from the co-op, we had a photograph put in the Cambrian News just to announce that, which they thought that was great.
Yeah.
The other thing is, we'll go back to newspapers, I've like had people take photos and send them in, so you don't need to contact them before and get their photographer.
No.
They've been quite happy if we send the
Oh, we
photo
have
as
had a
well.
supportive photographer.
So for them it's a free
Yeah.
story,
Yeah.
you know, they
Yeah.
haven't had to do any work, you've got all the information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they, you know, keen
I
to
do it
put
all
in.
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that in some parts of Wales, the local newspaper doesn't have a photographer anymore.
No.
So you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Just take
Yeah.
your own photograph and
Yeah.
send it in
And
with your own
yeah.
copy.
They've got no excuse not to do it, you know,
Yeah.
you've been as easy as you can.
I just remember the old photographer, there was a pop-up everywhere. I haven't seen him for a while actually.
There's one original that road, there's everything.
Avid.
Yeah.
His son pops up there.
I know, and he's worse, he faffs around for ages, doesn't
Can I just come back to what you said about the administrative costs that you can put in for grants and project and stuff? Even if you're a volunteer, can you still put that time in? This is almost like, because you're a volunteer, you've got all the time in the world, you know, you're retired.
Yeah, I mean, volunteers are very important, and most charitable trusts see volunteers on the same level as an employee. So
Right.
you should have the same rights, so therefore you have the same
Yes.
costs.
Right,
Yeah.
thank you.
And you put in volunteers costs.
Yes,
Yeah.
Which there is a formula that you
Yeah.
follow.
Yes.
But you follow
Yeah.
that as well.
I think Steve knows that.
Yeah.
Where do you find that at? On the particular
Well,
thing that you're
it's
applying
on-
for?
yeah,
Or
our
on
website.
CAVO?
Yeah, we have a website.
Okay.
Or, as I said, send us an email or
Okay,
phone call,
yeah.
we can assist you in some way.
Presumably, volunteer costs are much lower than staff costs.
Oh yeah, it depends
Yeah,
on
yeah.
what skills you've got and things like that.
But like
But
volunteers
But it's
are
still
allowed to have a
important.
cup of coffee, they're allowed to
Yeah.
have a sandwich,
Okay.
And you're travelling time.
Yeah, well, just travelling, you know,
costs and things
sometimes
like
I don't
that.
claim since
Your
fuel's
costs
gone down, I'm
and
not
such.
claiming the amount.
The
But this
higher
paper, I
of
find
places.
labour and printing it
Yeah.
is my biggest
Things like that.
Yeah.
Postage.
What we've been doing is costing
Yeah, I like the
volunteer
second
time
one.
and putting that as match funding. which
Yeah.
is-
Oh,
Yep.
That's a good idea. Match funding, lots of grant bodies like match funding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they like
Can
to
you-
see something from you.
How do you mean by
Well, it's
match
not,
funding?
yeah.
Well,
give
say
them-
if you do, like, a volunteer does a week's work, and the standard costings, you could say that's worth 500 quid if you were paying a member of staff to do that. So you go, well, that volunteer's donated £500, and if someone wants to donate half the cost of the project, they'll match that and then say, okay, we'll give you £500 cash.